You know, every winter I get the same set of questions thrown at me. Why don't you make us a video that shows us all the details of how these things are made? This is that video. I'm not going to do a step-by-step, boring, tedious diatribe of the whole stove from start to finish, but what I've done is I've made all of the single individual parts and put them in the stove, and now I'm going to show you every single component that goes into the stoves. The ash pan. The ash pan is shaped on the top so that it fits the curved bottom of the fire itself. The flue stem. The flue stem's not at 90 degrees, it's a little less than 90 degrees. Here's the base, that's made out of 1/4 inch plate. This part gets welded to the base like that, and the ash pan slides into there. Here's the grate. It's made out of high carbon, high tensile reinforcing bar. They normally last 3 to 5 years. It's in 2 pieces so that you can fit it through the door. You can't quite fit a full grate through this door. Here's the double burning plate. The double burning plate fits up inside on an angle and doubles the flame path, meaning that more heat gets put out into the room instead of up the chimney. Here's the door. This is the 1/4 inch plate that gets welded in the top. That's the final stage. And here's the door assembly. The door assembly takes me quite a while to put together. It has the adjustable airflow there, and the glass fits inside and is held in with 2 clips that push against these. This frame gets welded into the door like that. Here's the handle for the door. You could use a wooden handle, but I like to recycle things. These springs support the bowl in an automatic washing machine. There are 4 in every washing machine. These are the 4 brackets that get welded to the outside of the body. They stand the heat shield 1 inch, 25 millimeters away from the body of the stove. The 2 pieces of thin sheet steel that form the slides that take the air valve are cut from 1.2 millimeter sheet steel and folded at 90 degrees, then welded in precisely the right place to allow a nice smooth action for the air slide. The entire unit is then welded into the door at just 6 points. This eliminates any warpage and ensures that the door retains a good seal. Because the flue stem goes into the body on an angle, the hole has to be slightly oval. It takes me a few minutes to get the hole exactly right, but once I've done that, I weld it from the inside, and that means that the welds don't show on the outside, giving a lovely clean finish. Of course, you only get one chance to make sure that it's in properly, so I square it all up and make sure that everything is at 90 degrees with everything else. Once the flue stem's in, it's time to start cutting another hole in the bottom, and this one allows the ash to drop out of the fire into the ash pan. I use a 4-inch hole saw, but you could just as easily cut it with a plasma cutter or very carefully with a cutting disc. Big hole saws need to be turned at a very low speed and need lots of lubrication. So once I've got this hole drilled, that's the end of the body itself, with the exception of 3 small pins that get welded inside to hold the double burning plate in the correct position. Once they've been welded in, I can weld in the cooking plate. I'm just leveling it all up here, making sure that the gap is even all the way around. I like to leave a 2 to 3 millimeter gap for the weld to fill into, and I like to be very, very particular with my welding, because the more careful I am at this stage, the less cleaning up I'll have to do later, because I dressed this particular weld back so it can't be seen. There's quite a bit of grinding and polishing, but it does make the stoves look pretty swish when it's a nice smooth transition from the body of the stove up into the cooking plate. Now, I'm about to slip a piece of scrap tubing over the chimney stem, so that as I do the weld around the chimney stem, I'm not going to get welding spatter onto the chimney, because there's a piece right at the back that I can't get in with a grinder to clean that up should I make a mess of it. Now, I'm not a welder. I'm a guy with a workshop that has a welder in it that I use. I've been welding for 40 years, but I'm not a welder. Welders are a precocious, precious bunch of people who love to critique other people's attempts at welding. As I say, I've been welding for 40 years. And in 40 years, I've discovered what suits me. There's a lot of people out there who don't like flux cord wire, but there's damn good reasons why I use it. If you're a welder, you'll know why I use flux cord wire. If you're not a welder, please don't critique me for using flux cord wire. Flux cord wire is made for people who require the use of flux cord wire. There are reasons for it. If you're a welder, you should know what they are. Anyway, rant over. Just please don't leave silly comments about your opinion on welding. There's damn good reasons for everything that I do, trust me. Okay, once the welding's finished, it's time for some serious grinding. I put on a new wheel generally so that I can get a really flat finish around the top here. I take off the top pieces first all the way around, and then I'll slowly work my way down into the curve with the grinder, round and round. While I was welding, I was very careful not to get too much build up or leave any pinholes. Sometimes I do have to go back and do a little touch up, but generally I can get this whole seam down to a polished finish without any remedial work. This is that point I mentioned earlier where I can't quite get in with the grinder between the flue stem and the body of the stove. So I have to finish that last little bit above the flue stem with a file. And that's why I put the piece of tube over it while I was welding, just to reduce the amount of mess that I'd have to clean up with the file in that area. There's damn good reasons for everything that I do, trust me. Once that top weld has been ground and polished and is almost invisible, I then get on with mounting the heat shield. I do this by turning the stove over, putting it on a level surface, and offering up the heat shield with the tabs bolted to it, and that all sits in line, and I can just weld in behind each tab so that the welds aren't visible from the front. This gives me a really tidy look. Once the heat shield tabs are welded on, everything gets whipped outside into the sunshine, and if it's not warm enough, I'll give it a warm up with a heat gun, because to get this paint to set properly, I've got to get it to a decent temperature. It's winter here, things are cold, but I can just cheat a little bit by warming these bits up with the heat gun before I paint them with this really high-tech, high-performance, high-temperature paint. Now, it was a huge rush to get this thing finished. The guy was coming to pick it up, and I had to get this finished in a big hurry. So here's a photograph of one I prepared earlier. This is one of the other little stoves of exactly the same type that I built a while ago and photographed on the table. So this is what they look like finished, but the guy had to whip his away and fitted it over the weekend to his little sleep out hut at the beach house.